Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. It's Grandpa coming to you from the living room in Jacksonville Beach. Getting ready to do the next in a first myth storybook. A first myths story book. And today we're going to look at something called wolf babies. What the heck is that all about? Is this about baby wolves? Well, let's see. If you go to the city of Rome, and your grandmother and I spent a week there back, I think in 2015 or 2016, so like around 10 years ago. We spent a week. It's a fascinating city. There's all kinds of things to see. But one of the things that you run into all the time are these statues, and there's banners and frescoes, which are on the sides of buildings, that have these two babies and a wolf, a mama wolf. What is that all about? Why would they have that? Well, this says Romulus in Latin, which was the language of the Romans. And from this city of Rome, they built this great empire that went around a large portion of the world. So this is Romulus, but they write it as V instead of U. I don't know why. Romulus and Remus. But once again, this is really a U. And we'll see this when we get into the actual story. So, our agenda. Let's get this. Like always, we're going to do spelling, and then we're going to do the meanings of the words that were spelled. These words today, you know the meanings of them. These are words that some of them are the first word you said, mama and dada. So you know who mama and dada are. You're mama and dada. But we are going to put meanings to them, because you need to be able to tell people what this is. Well, this is what this word means. And we're going to find the word. We're going to read through it with me reading. And so when you're going to find the word as we're going through it. Every time you see one of these four words, you need to go, oh, that's that word. Because that's how you learn words. And then you read it. So you'll pause it, and you'll try to read the story, as much of it as you can. In the beginning, you're not going to be able to read it. But after a while, you will. You'll be amazed how quickly you learn. And the pop quiz, the grand pop quiz. So, for wolf babies, the four words are mother. See, I told you. You said ma, probably. But, Olive, you just said grandpop the other day. I was on the phone with your mom, and she said, I'm on the phone with grandpop. And you went, grandpop? That was the first time that you said that. My voice is giving out quickly. So mother, how do you spell mother? M-O-T-H-E-R, mother. Ma. Now this is a short O sound, and th makes it th. Mother, not moothier. That would be a long O and a long E. Moothier, but it's not. It's mother. And what's a mother? Well, you know, it's a female parent. It's a lady who's a parent. In your case, it's your mom. So next up is, you're not going to believe the next word. You're not going to guess this. Father. You guessed that, didn't you? I'm just having some fun with you. That's what I do. Father. So once again, you have there. This is mother. So what would father be spelled like? Well, how about father? So it's fat her. No, so it's a short A and a short E. It's not fadier. It's father. And what's a father? Well, if a mother's a female parent, a lady who's a parent, a father is a male parent, a man who's a parent. Next up is uncle. Uncle. Take a shot at this one. This one's pretty hard when you first get started. Hopefully my voice will last through this. Uncle. Uncle. U-N-C-L-E. Uncle. This is a funny one. This has a short U, and the E is silent. This looks like it would say uncle, but it's not. And you just have to learn these things. Uncle. And what is an uncle? It's your mother or father's brother. What's your mother or father's sister? That's your aunt. But that's not one of the words. And then the last of the four words is brother. How do you think brother is spelled? Brother. B-R-O-T-H-E-R. Brother. So this is, it rhymes with mother. And you have other, and that is the word other. O-T-H-E-R. If it's something else, it's one other thing, that's that word. So you put a M in front of it, mother. You put a B-R, it's brother. Brother. And what's a brother? I'm not talking about a brother. A brother. A sibling. So a sibling could be a brother or sister. Frank, you have siblings. You have brothers and sisters. Well, I don't know how many of each, but I think your mom has had a few kids after you. Okay, so let's find out about these wolf babies. And that's what it says, wolf babies. In ancient Italy, and that's the country that we went to. But it wasn't called Italy back then. They're just letting you know. In the area of what the country that's now called Italy, there were twin little boys who had a very strange family. Their real mother was a princess. Remember that word from the last time? Called Sylvia. And their father was Mars, the great war god. We talked about this a little bit in the last one, that there were all kinds of people and gods, and sometimes the gods and people would have a baby together, and that was called a demigod, or sometimes, we'll just go with that, a demigod. So Mars, there's a planet named Mars in the sky, and it was named after this god, Mars, the great war god. Excuse me. When Sylvia gave birth, so she had the baby, to the twin boys, her uncle, Amulius, was furious. Let's find out why he's furious. Furious means really, really mad. Amulius had stolen his kingdom from Sylvia's father. So I'm going to assume right here that her uncle is her father's brother. And so one of them was the rightful king, and the other one stole his kingdom, his country. And he didn't want her sons to get it back when they were older. Something bad's going to happen here, I can tell. So Amulius had Sylvia and her two sons thrown into a river. So I'm thinking here that this is the war god, because they're making him real, real big, the god Mars. I think in Greek mythology his name was Ares. And when we get into, not so much in this book, but when we get into some other books that I have planned, we'll talk about how all the Greek gods and the Roman gods matched up. They just had different names. Because the Romans kind of inherited a lot of their mythology, a lot of their culture from the Greeks. So you have, this is the god Mars, and this is this Sylvia, and it looks like, is it just one baby there? I don't see two. Maybe that's another head there, I don't know. But, so we threw them into a river. That's horrible. Sylvia was rescued by a river god, but the twins were swept away. But we see here that these twins weren't thrown into the river just like Arlo, you go swimming, and Frank, I'm sure that you swim from time to time. And I've been swimming with you. You had I think your 5th birthday was at some swimming pool, and you were diving off the diving board and everything, but they're not being just thrown into the water. There's this little reed basket, So this is all airtight, watertight. It's these reeds all woven together, but they were good at doing this. They would actually make boats in Egypt on the Nile River with reeds woven together. So this is the two babies, and this must be Amulius. He looks like a real turd. So the Sylvia gets rescued, but the twins are floating down the river in this thing. The swift stream, so the stream is, the way they're saying it here, it's part of the river. It's really like the current, the eddies, the flow. They get thrown in a river, and they wind up floating downstream, is what they call it. So the swift, and that means fast, stream carried the baby's cradle far away. The waters rushed into the river Tiber. And the river Tiber goes through Rome, which overflowed its banks. We talked about this, how rivers have banks and the sea has a coastline. So the banks, if you go to the Tiber River, the river is far below where the street is. You can't just like walk into the Tiber River like you can walk into the ocean around the corner here. But for some reason it had overflowed its banks. And we see these babies are now up on here. This almost looks like a beach. The little boys were washed ashore under a fig tree. And all of your parents are renting a house right now, and that house has several fig trees. And I'm sure when they buy their new house, because their old house just sold, or I don't want to say it's sold, but they accepted an offer on their house, so it's going to sell. And when they go through with that, then they're going to buy a new house. And I know your mom, she's going to have some fruit trees. And in Northern California or Central California, whatever you want to call that area, that's a great place to grow fruit trees. You can grow all kinds of things. But I digress. They were hungry and started to cry. A she-wolf, so a girl wolf, a lady wolf, had come down to the water to drink. When she heard the babies crying, she ate them. That's how I think the story is going to go, but let's find out what happened here. She lifted them gently out of their cradle and carried them back to her den. I don't know how she did that, but she did. And here she is, lifting them out of their cradle. Maybe they had diapers on or something. There, the twin boys drank their wolf mother's milk and grew up with wolf brothers and sisters. So this wolf is raising these babies, but she has her own babies. And so they're all together in a family, and these little boys are growing up with wolves. So here's the wolf mom and the boys and the wolf siblings. Remember that word, siblings? When they grew up, the two boys were adopted by shepherds. So shepherds are men, usually, and they raise sheep. So they go out in the field with like maybe 100 sheep, and they let the sheep graze and eat grass and stuff, and go get water, and they sleep with them and everything. So these shepherds somehow came upon these boys who were grown, and the shepherds who called them Romulus and Remus. So remember the U-L-U-S and the M-U-S, but on that coin it looked like a V. But this is them, Romulus and Remus. The twins found out that they came from a king's family, and both wanted to build a city on the banks of the river Tiber. But they couldn't agree on the right place to start building. Romulus wanted one hill, and Remus preferred another. So when you prefer something, you want that more. You like that more. So Rome is built on 7 hills. I think the original hill is called the Palatine Hill, and probably won't mention that in here. This story and all these stories are much longer than these. These are abbreviated. They're short stories because they're for kids that are just learning about them. So later on, you can read this story again when you're really good at reading and find out the whole myth. So a competition, and a competition is a contest. It's like, a football game is a competition between 2 football teams. So a competition was held to see who should build the city, and Romulus won. Remus was jealous of his brother. He waited until Romulus had started to build the wall of his city. And these cities had to have walls because they had to be protected. People could go out and take the sheep out there and graze the sheep in the fields and everything, but by nighttime, everybody comes inside, close the gate of the wall, and everybody's safe and secure inside the city, so nobody can attack him. So he starts to build his wall. Then he jumped over it. And here's a picture of him jumping over it. Now here's a picture of Romulus. Romulus has the blue on, and he's building the wall. And Remus, in yellow, he's jumping over the wall. "Hey, Romulus," he said, "it's going to be really easy to invade your city." So that invade means to attack it. "So much for your defenses." I have to point something out here. If you recall, when we first started at the introduction to this book, we noticed that it was from England. So some words are spelled differently. Defenses, which means to guard something, to defend it, to secure it. It's D-E-F-E-N-S-E-S, not C-E-S. Romulus was furious. And furious means he was really, really angry with Remus for making fun of him. He knocked him to the ground, and the 2 brothers had the most tremendous fight. Tremendous is a great fight. A brouhaha, which Romulus won. My city is going to be the most beautiful the world has ever seen. And it is very beautiful. He panted. Now, panting means like, because he just fought with his brother, so they're both out of breath. So he's panting. And the strongest. And for some point in time, it was the strongest city in the world. And Romulus was right. The city he built was called Rome. And you can still visit it today. And there's all kinds of things here. This is the Colosseum. We went there. We actually stayed about 10 blocks away from the Colosseum. You could walk to it from our Airbnb. This, I think, is Palatine Hill right here. But I could be wrong. And anyway, that's the story. So, the Grand Pop Quiz. Spell mother. Mother. M-O-T-H-E-R. What is a mother? Female parent. A lady parent. Spell father. Father. F-A-T-H-E-R. Father. What's a father? A male parent. A man parent. Spell uncle. Uncle. U-N-C-L-E. Uncle. What's an uncle? Your mother or father's brother. And last but not least, spell brother. And remember, it rhymes with mother. Brother. Brother. B-R-O-T-H-E-R. Brother. What's a brother? A sibling. A boy's sibling, I should say. I should have written it that way. A boy's sibling. Okay. What is the summary of Wolf Babies? What was the story about? The story of twin brothers who were raised by wolves and go on to establish the city of Rome. Pretty cool, huh? Now, did this story really happen? I doubt if these boys were raised by wolves. But I also doubt that 100% of the story is made up. There's another myth about the founding of Rome that came from the Trojan War. The Greeks fought the Trojans, and a guy named Aeneas, who was a Trojan, took a bunch of guys, and they left Troy and went on and went to Rome and founded Rome. There's a lot more behind that myth. A lot of that myth is probably true. But I bet that some of this myth is true too. That's why it survived all this time. So, until next time, peace out. PEACEOUT! Exclamation point.